listening to the WrestleHavoc Podcast on YouTube, where we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. We talk all that goes on in the realm of WWE and AEW every week. And now, here's your host, the one that will give you a reality check on pro wrestling, Flamin' Ricky DeReyes. This is the WrestleHavoc Podcast.
What's up, everybody? It is Flamin' Ricky DeReyes, right here on the WrestleHavoc Podcast, here to review Friday Night SmackDown from April 14th, 2023. Overall thoughts on this show. Really, it was a pretty decent episode of SmackDown, but I will say nothing really special happened on this show. It was really your pretty generic SmackDown. Really, the only thing you have to ask yourself after this show, after Solo Sikoa versus Matt Riddle, is Jey Uso's days in the Bloodline numbered? We're going to be talking about that and a bunch more right here on the SmackDown Review. And yes, I do know the SmackDown Review is a couple of days late. Biggest reason is because of the fact that this whole weekend I was literally so sick that I just didn't do anything at all. I felt absolutely terrible. I feel much better now. I feel more energetic now than I did on Sunday or Saturday. But I will say I was out sick, so hopefully that doesn't affect the schedule. Originally, I wanted to upload the SmackDown Review on Saturday and then upload the next episode of the WrestleHavoc Podcast, the main show, on Sunday, but apparently that's going to have to get pushed back once again, which sucks because there's a lot of things to talk about when it comes to the main show. Of course, the main topic of news is CM Punk, considering the fact that he's now in talks to return to AEW, and it looks like, in my opinion, it's kind of a done deal. Also, with the impending announcement of this new 2-hour show that's going to be airing on TNT on June called AEW Collision as well. There's a lot of news regarding AEW. There's an apparent roster split. A roster split, in my opinion, that basically is most likely, we don't know it's official, but most likely happening for all of the wrong reasons. And I'll talk about that in the next episode of the WrestleHavoc Podcast. We got a lot to get into on that episode, but we have to get through with SmackDown first. But before I get on with all this craziness regarding SmackDown, make sure to like and subscribe to the WrestleHavoc Podcast right here on YouTube, in which we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content. And as the frickin' referee would say, ring that damn bell for more notifications. Also, the WrestleHavoc Podcast is also available on audio platforms. It is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, and Google Podcasts. So if you guys want to listen to the WrestleHavoc Podcast in audio format, it is available on all of those platforms. Also, if you guys missed it, the AEW Dynamite review is up on the channel. We talk about MJF and Darby Allin going face-to-face along with Sting in a really good, fantastic opening segment. I rant about the TNT Championship. We had a lot of other things happening on Dynamite. Of course, Jay White is now having his own Bullet Club faction since he is now All Elite, called Bullet Club Gold. A lot of things to talk about on the AEW Dynamite review, so you guys haven't checked it out, the link will be in the description below. Also, the Raw review is also been up on the channel for a week. We talk about how the show was much better than the Raw after WrestleMania, but it still had me fall asleep for 3 hours, as it states in the thumbnail right there. Of course, we have Cody Rhodes challenging Brock Lesnar to a match at Backlash. A lot of things happening on the Raw review, so if you guys haven't checked out the AEW Dynamite and Raw reviews, the links will be in the descriptions below. All right, let's get on with Friday Night SmackDown. As I've stated earlier, not really, it was a pretty decent show. We had some pretty good wrestling on the show, really good matches. We had matches like Damian Priest versus Santos Escobar. We had Matt Riddle versus Solo Sikoa. One thing I will say, man, is I absolutely love, and I mean this wholeheartedly, I love the way that they are booking Solo Sikoa. Solo Sikoa is being booked like a fucking killer. But we'll talk about SmackDown. We're going to be talking about it now, actually. SmackDown kicks off with the undisputed WWE Tag Team Champions, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. We get a bunch of Sami chants by the crowd. Sami Zayn is still relatively over. He thanks the crowd and talks about how it's only been 2 weeks, but for the first time ever, the WWE Tag Team Championships were in the main event of WrestleMania. Two guys that started together from nothing, they closed out WrestleMania as the champions. And for as amazing as that was, they haven't had time to think about it because everything that's happening with the Bloodline and all the stuff going on with the upcoming WWE Draft. It's also an exciting time and also a time of uncertainty. Kevin Owens says, the unpredictability is insane, but there are two things for sure. He knows that regardless where they end up, they are still the undisputed WWE Tag Team Champions, and as hard as they have worked for those titles, they will defend them whether they are on Raw or on SmackDown every time. And the other thing he knows is that sooner rather than later, the Usos are coming for a rematch. And then Sami Zayn told Sami that the Usos come out. Basically, what happens is the Usos come out and they interrupt Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. Jimmy says that they're acting like they're folding under pressure. They have been champs for only 2 weeks. They have been champs for 2 years. You don't know anything about pressure, says the Usos. Sami then replies that they have to answer to their daddy Roman Reigns, and then Jimmy tells him to shut up. Jimmy then proceeds to mock Sami Zayn, basically talking about how he'd be saying the same thing over and over and over again, and talks about how the Bloodline is more stronger than ever. The Usos then, they said that they leveled up, they got the Enforcer, and we don't want the Savage Solo Sikoa to come up. So after that, the Usos says that they will be 9-time tag team champions again, and there are no cracks in the Bloodline, says Jey Uso. They are all good over here, and just like they will take those tag team titles, they will fall under pressure and then turn on each other like they always do. It's going to be Sami instead. It's not going to be Kevin. It's going to be Sami backstabbing his brother just like he backstabbed his family. And then Sami says he wishes he was good at anything, as Jey is basically lying to himself. He wants to act like everything is cool, and he wants to act like Solo isn't ready. Yeah, he basically wants to act like Solo wasn't ready to drop him last week. He wasn't. He wants to keep ignoring what he's saying. It doesn't matter what he said. They didn't come out here to talk. The Usos and Solo then surround the ring, but then what happens? Matt Riddle comes out. After that, a brawl breaks loose, and then the babyfaces gain the advantage. Meanwhile, in the ring, Solo Sikoa has Matt Riddle, and then he tries to go for the Samoan spike, but then he misses. And then Riddle hits the knee, and then he goes for the second knee. And then Adam Pearce tonight, after that segment, announces that Solo Sikoa and Matt Riddle will fight in the main event on SmackDown. Overall thoughts on this segment. Again, this is story progression, and we are not done with the entirety of the Bloodline and Sami Zayn just yet, because we have, of course, Matt Riddle versus Matt Riddle versus Solo Sikoa happening at the main event of the show. And there's a lot of speculation happening after that, especially after that Paul Heyman promo, in which I will be talking about, because it's very, very, very interesting stuff, especially with the eye contact that Paul Heyman had towards the Usos, primarily Jey Uso, in which I talked about this last week. There's a lot of possibilities, and WWE is definitely building to something much greater when it comes to the Bloodline. And I've always talked about this. Even if Roman didn't lose or lost the titles, I genuinely believe there is a much bigger story to be told regarding Jey Uso, considering the fact that Jey Uso is basically Roman Reigns' first feud ever since he turned heel back in 2020, and he's basically the catalyst to all this stuff going on right now. So, honestly, the things are getting quite interesting, in my opinion. But after that, we got LA Knight versus Xavier Woods. I can't count how many times we've seen this match. I feel like this is like the second or third time we've seen this match already, but Jesus Christ, it feels like we've been watching this match for like 5 weeks already. Now, I'm just over-exaggerating, but like again, this is like the third time we've seen this match. I may be totally exaggerating, but again, it totally feels that way. It's one of those matches. Overall thoughts on this match, nothing really special. Both men lock up. We get a side headlock by LA Knight, followed by a shoulder tackle. Woods then goes for the drop kick, and after that, we get a side headlock by Woods, followed by a side headlock takeover by Woods, and then we get a roll-up and a near fall. Woods then gets picked up and lands on his feet, but then LA Knight takes him down. We get the head scissors, followed by a Russian leg sweep by Woods on LA Knight, which looked pretty sick. Woods then hits the somersault on LA Knight to the outside. He then takes LA Knight back into the ring, but then Woods goes to the top, but then LA Knight rolls away to the outside. And then Woods hits a sliding kick through the ropes, and then he drives Woods onto the apron. And then he drives him to the ring post, but then once we're back from commercial break, Woods is in control over LA Knight. LA then hits a neck breaker, but then we get a cover by LA Knight and a near fall. LA Knight is in control over Xavier Woods at this point, but then Woods goes for repeated rights. After that, he hits a leg kick on LA Knight. At this point, both men are down. After that, Woods goes for the chop, but then Woods takes down LA Knight, but then we get a cover by Woods and a near fall. And then he picks up LA Knight, but then Knight escapes. Woods then goes for the back elbow, but then Woods misses the kick, and then Knight hits a DDT. We get a cover by LA Knight and a near fall. Then he tries to pick up Woods, but then Woods counters, and then Woods continues to block him. But then after that, LA Knight goes after Xavier Woods, but then he picks up Woods, and then Woods goes after him once again. He picks up Knight, and then he sets him on the top rope. Woods then goes to the top, and then he goes for the double stomp onto the back of the neck of LA Knight. And then Woods hits the leg drop. We get a cover by Woods and a near fall when LA Knight gets his hand on the bottom rope. We then get a kick by Woods, but then LA Knight hits a slam on Xavier Woods, but then LA Knight hits an elbow. Woods then counters LA Knight, and then both exchange waist locks. We then get a roll up by LA Knight, but then he gets caught holding the tights of Xavier Woods. After that, he proceeds to argue with the referee, and after arguing with the referee, Woods actually manages to gain the advantage, and we get a roll up by Woods, and Xavier Woods beats LA Knight clean in the center of the ring. Overall thoughts on this match. Pretty quick match in the first match for SmackDown, in my opinion, but not a bad match whatsoever. But I see a lot of people concerned about LA Knight ever since he keeps on losing constantly. Now, what's interesting to note is that we have Money in the Bank coming up, and I believe in the rumor mill, the rumored winner of Money in the Bank I heard was LA Knight. I'm not sure, but it kind of does suck having a talent of the caliber of LA Knight losing all the time, especially him being put in a feud like this. But I don't know, man. I don't see WWE giving up on a talent like LA Knight. I feel like that'd be really stupid, even for WWE standards. Like, I mean, we all know how stupid WWE is, but they can't be that stupid. I may be totally wrong, but I don't know, man. LA Knight losing to Xavier Woods, it's kind of a little iffy to me, but I mean, it is what it is. I mean, I definitely do see WWE having plans for LA Knight in the future, but I don't know, man. LA Knight did lose to Xavier Woods. Could we be all wrong, in my opinion? I have no idea, but LA Knight gets the loss, and Xavier Woods gets the win. We get Imperium backstage, that being Ludwig Kaiser, Giovanni Vinci, and the IC champion Gunther. Basically, Gunther is motivating the tag team, and then Woods comes in with Francesca. Ludwig Kaiser gets pissed. He keeps on interrupting, and then Gunther says he clearly wants his attention, that being Xavier Woods. He calls Xavier Woods a goof, and he doesn't know what respect is. He will beat the respect out of him, and Woods says he's never had a shot for the Intercontinental Championship, and considering the draft is coming up, he feels like he is beyond ready to take the title back to his place. Interesting. It looks like they're teasing a match between Gunther and Xavier Woods. Again, I'm absolutely enjoying what they are fucking doing with Gunther, considering the fact that for years, the Intercontinental title has meant nothing but jack shit. Now the Intercontinental Championship is probably, I could even argue, the best mid-card championship in all of wrestling. Because, really, the TNT Championship is in shambles right now. The U.S. title is pretty decent where it is. It's not in a bad state. It's actually in a pretty good state. But if you really were to compare the Intercontinental and U.S. titles right now, definitely the Intercontinental Championship is way more important than the U.S. title. Really, the closest title to put that is either the U.S. title or the AEW International Championship. The International Championship is way more important, in my opinion, than the TNT Championship. But again, man, the Intercontinental title right now is definitely where it's at, considering the man holding it, and Gunther is literally making that title feel more relevant than ever before, in my opinion. Like, he's literally making that title relevant, and it's been more relevant now than it ever was in its history because of the fact of the man holding it. Sami Zayn and Matt Riddle backstage. Sami says Solo is indeed dangerous, and he talks about how, all of this whole stuff with the Bloodline is his fault, and he tells him to be careful. And then Kevin Owens gets pissed. Kevin Owens says he needs to go out there and just give everything you have and just beat the shit out of him. That's basically what Kevin Owens states. So is there a little bit of tension regarding Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens? We're just going to have to wait and see. It's very interesting. You know, the dynamic between Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens is very interesting. Could they be leading to something? I honestly don't think so. But again, you know, it's very interesting to see where they're headed. But also, again, Matt Riddle involving with Solo Sikoa, it makes total sense considering the fact that when Matt Riddle legitimately got suspended, they wrote him off of television by having Solo Sikoa basically write him off. So it makes total sense for Matt Riddle to come in and feud with a guy like Solo Sikoa. We get Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley and Dominic Mysterio, Judgment Day. They are in the ring. Damian Priest gets the microphone. And he says, Backlash is in San Juan, Puerto Rico. And the host was his friend, Bad Bunny. And says, if he wants to attend this show and sit down in the front row, that's fine. But if he puts his hands on his family, well, you know what can happen. And then Damian Priest then manages to show the footage about what happened on the Raw after WrestleMania when basically Dominic went in the face of Bad Bunny. And then Bad Bunny not only gave him a right hand once, but literally gave him a right hand twice, which led to Damian Priest literally planting Bad Bunny through the announce table. And then he showed it a second time, but this time it was actually in slow motion. After that, he says what happens is the LWO comes out, the Latino World Order. They come out. Zelina Vega actually comes out through the stage, and Cruz del Toro and Joaquin Wilde and Santos Escobar actually attack the Judgment Day from behind, which then leads us to have a match between Damian Priest and Santos Escobar. This was a pretty decent match, man. I absolutely loved this match for what it was. Santos Escobar is fucking fantastic. Same thing as Damian Priest. Both wrestlers are amazing, equally as amazing at what they do. And they definitely hit a home run with this match. And honestly, the feud between LWO and Judgment Day, I'm really enjoying a lot of it. I mean, I love how they brought back the LWO. But not only that, I love how this feud is playing out. And I talked about this on my WrestleMania reviews. And even on the WrestleMania's reviews, even after the reviews after WrestleMania, I've even stated, if there's one storyline that is equally as better as the Bloodline stuff going on, it's definitely Rey Mysterio and Dominic Mysterio, and adding Judgment Day and the LWO in the mix just gives you a bunch more opportunities to really tell all these great stories. And they continued on with this feud right here on the show. But we had Damian Priest versus Santos Escobar. Priest runs into a boot by Santos. He goes to the top and then he hits the crossbody. Santos then clotheslines him to the outside, but then Priest is on the outside. At this point, Santos is on the apron, but then he drops into a right hand by Priest. Priest then takes him back into the ring, but then Priest is in control. Priest then goes for the broken arrow. We then get a cover and a near fall. We then go for an overhand chop by Santos Escobar, followed by a kick by Priest. And then we get repeated kicks by Priest after that, followed by a couple of overhand chops by Santos Escobar. At this point, both men exchange chops. After that, we get a chop by Santos, followed by a drop kick. After that, we get a cover by Escobar and a near fall. After that, Santos goes for the running knee. We get a right hand by Santos, followed by the running knee once again, but then he drives Priest headfirst onto the other turnbuckle. Then on the middle rope, Santos goes for repeated rights, but then Priest catches him. Escobar then goes for an elbow, followed by a super kick by Priest, but then Santos is on the outside. Priest is in the ring, but then Priest goes for a double sledge / axe handle off the steps, taking out Santos Escobar. Once we're back from commercial break, Priest is in control over Santos Escobar, followed by a couple of right hands. After that, Priest flatlines Escobar, but then we get a cover by Priest and a near fall. Priest then continues to be in control. Santos goes for repeated elbows, but then Santos regains control. And then, but he manages to run into a double stomp by Priest into the corner. Priest then takes Santos up, but then Santos fights back on Priest. Santos then goes all the way up, and then he hits a beautiful Hurricane Rana on Damian Priest. We get a cover by Santos and a near fall. Then Priest goes for a right hand, but then he goes for a right hand on Santos, or a right hand by Santos. After that, both men exchange shots. Then we get a knee by Escobar, but then Escobar takes out Priest multiple times. Then we get a Hurricane Rana by Santos on Priest, but then he gets taken on the apron. Santos then off the top goes for a moonsault. After that, we get a cover by Santos and a near fall. He picks up Damian Priest, but then Rhea at this point is distracting the referee. At this point, Dominic gets involved, but then Priest hits a clothesline. But then what happens? The LWO proceed to take out Dominic, but then Priest drives them into the Timekeeper's area. Santos then goes for the suicide dive, but then he takes Priest back into the ring, but then Rhea grabs the boot. After that, Zelina hits a beautiful Hurricane Rana on the barricade on Rhea Ripley. Santos then runs into a spin kick, but then he hits the South of Heaven chokeslam, that being Damian Priest. Damian Priest actually regains the advantage, and he hits the South of Heaven. We get a cover, and Damian Priest gets the win. After the match, Priest goes after Escobar, Rey Mysterio's music hit, and then he takes out Priest from behind, but then Dominic and Rey fight it out with a huge standing ovation from the crowd. Rey goes for the Hurricane Rana, but then he tries to go for the 619, but then what happens is Damian Priest saves Dominic. This feud is still going on, and you know what? I absolutely fucking love it. Again, this is the second best feud, in my opinion, in the WWE right now. And, man, I always have to admit this, man, but one of my favorite things about this whole feud is literally not even anybody involving in the feud. It's literally Michael Cole, man. Every time when Dominic gets his ass beat by either the LWO or his own father, man, you got literally Michael Cole marking the fuck out, literally saying, "Come on, Ray, beat your son's ass," blah, blah, blah. That is the type of emotion that I want to see when it comes to a commentator. And that is exactly what I see with Michael Cole, man. I can remember years ago when I used to say, bro, Michael Cole sucks. But it wasn't really his fault. It was because of the fact that Vince McMahon just made him say shit that Michael Cole wasn't just really comfortable with saying. And now, even before Triple H took over, he got even 10 times better with Pat McAfee alongside with him, because you can definitely see he genuinely loved his job. But ever since Triple H took over, like that betterness, like that improvement with Michael Cole literally went from 50 to 100%. Like ever since Triple H took over, Michael Cole improved drastically. He sounds more genuine. He doesn't repeat himself constantly like he used to do. He doesn't say the stupidest shit. Like every time when Sasha Banks came out, he always said it was boss time. Or when Roman Reigns came out, they would literally have the same camera pan to the stage, and he would literally say the big dog. Stuff like that, man, always irritated me about Michael Cole. But like now, man, Michael Cole, again, when you see the emotion of Michael Cole, and it was clearly shown when that video was filmed of Michael Cole literally just marking out during the main event of night 1 of WrestleMania. Michael Cole clearly loves his job, and you can definitely see by the emotion, man. Michael Cole is fantastic at what he does. If you honestly say he's your favorite commentator right now, I can't blame you at all. I wouldn't even get mad at you, because honestly, Michael Cole has improved drastically. Hats off to Michael Cole. He's fantastic. Solo Sikoa backstage. Paul Heyman got off the phone with our tribal chief. They talk about how they embarrassed him and they embarrassed the family. Solo tells Heyman, well, so what happens is, this is actually pretty interesting. So Paul Heyman gets off the phone. He talks about how they embarrassed him and they embarrassed the family. And he basically names off every member or most of the members of the Anoa'i family. And Solo, then he interrupts Heyman and says, tell the tribal chief, I got this. I don't know about y'all, but like, when that happened, I was like, shit, Solo's real as fuck. Solo's fantastic, man. You know, if there's one thing you can say about Solo Sikoa, is that the way that they're booking Solo Sikoa is top tier perfection. Literally. It's top tier perfection the way that they're booking Solo Sikoa. Solo Sikoa is exactly what he is as part of the Bloodline. He is the fucking muscle. He is the fucking killer of the Bloodline. And I'm absolutely enjoying every bit of it. We get Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez, the new women's tag team champions. This was a nothing segment, in my opinion. If there's one thing that I didn't really enjoy about this show, it was definitely this segment. Of course, Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez won the women's tag team championships from Becky Lynch and Trish Stratus, which then led, after the match, for Trish Stratus to actually turn a heel on Becky Lynch. And now Trish Stratus is a heel. You guys already know my thoughts on that. I could give less of a shit. Basically what happened in the segment is both women were in the ring with their new belts, And WWE busted out a shit ton of pyro for both of them, which, I don't know, man. They're literally busting out pyro for all the wrong reasons, man. For the women's tag team championships, let's be honest, man. Those titles are completely irrelevant. They talk about how they are so happy and proud as the new tag team champions, and they brought the hardware to SmackDown, baby. But she genuinely, out of love this time, Raquel thanks Liv for sacrificing her body so she can use it as her own weapon. After that, they talk about how they make a perfect couple as a team. And after that, Liv says that sometimes incredible things happen when you least expect it. And then what happens is Sonya Deville and Chelsea Green comes out. And after that, they basically tell the fans to shut their mouth. It talks about how they're two tag team champions when they didn't even beat the tag team champions. They talk about how Lita got attacked last week. And maybe, someone from upper management. And then you have Chelsea Green immediately blame it on Adam Pearce. What a surprise. And then they discuss the way that they have been treated and the fact that they are being looked over for this tag team. True or false, the only difference between these two and all the fans are these championships. Where is their celebration? Where is their tag team opportunities? Do you know who they are? They are your next few challengers, says Liv. And a brawl breaks loose and nobody gave a shit. I could care less, man. I say this every week, either on Raw or SmackDown, but, bro, those titles should literally go to the garbage can. Those titles are completely irrelevant. Nobody cares about the women's tag team championships. It's just there's no tag teams, bro. Like, there's no real tag teams in that division at all. And that's, with the men's tag team division as well, like WWE had this problem a couple of years ago. Like they didn't give a shit about their men's tag team titles as well. Like they would have just like random tag teams, like makeshift tag teams that nobody gave a fuck about. And that's the problem. You have no legit tag teams in the women's division. And I can't really invest my time in the women's tag team title scene if you don't have actual tag teams. Corey Graves even said it too. He himself, Corey Graves, talked about this as well, and I couldn't agree more. We got Shinsuke Nakamura's return to SmackDown, and he takes on Madcap Moss. This match was pretty quick. Moss goes after Shinsuke Nakamura. He spears Shinsuke into the corner, but then we get a cover by Moss into near fall. He picks up Nakamura, and then we get a spinning kick by Nakamura, but then Shinsuke fights back. He hits a sliding kick on Moss, but then we get a kick to the back of the neck of Madcap Moss. And then he hits the sliding German suplex on Madcap Moss. And then he hits the knees off the second rope. After that, he hits the Kinshasa, and we get a cover. Shinsuke Nakamura wins the match. After the match, Moss goes after Shinsuke Nakamura, but then Shinsuke applies the armbar, and that was that. Great, that was his return. A nothing match against a quote-unquote jobber in Madcap Moss. That is really the best you got for Shinsuke? All right. After that, we got the Viking Raiders attacking Ricochet and Braun Strowman backstage. Ricochet tries to fight back, but then the Raiders gain the advantage. And then they hit the Ragnarok on Ricochet through the table. We then get Solo Sikoa versus Matt Riddle. Overall thoughts on this match. This was a pretty decent match overall. I enjoyed everything about this match. But the biggest takeaway that we have for this match is not really what happened during the match. It's really what happened before the match when Paul Heyman had the microphone. This was interesting stuff, and it created a lot of speculation with a lot of fans, and rightfully so. So Paul Heyman gets the microphone, right? Solo Sikoa comes out with the Usos and everybody else. Ladies and gentlemen, his name is Paul Heyman, and he has an historic announcement to make. And he got off the phone with our tribal chief, Roman Reigns, who authorized him that they muscled their way through management. And in 2 weeks from tonight, the biggest tag team match in the history of SmackDown, the main event of Night 1 of WrestleMania, gets rematched live in 2 weeks. So we got a rematch. We got officially Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn versus the Usos for the Undisputed Tag Team Championships happening in 2 weeks. Now, again, another point of speculation that a lot of fans have is that they're thinking that they're going to flip-flop the titles back to the Usos. If that is the case, that is the wrong decision to make. I don't understand why the fuck you would literally give the belts to Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn only to drop them back to the Usos. It literally makes no sense, and I don't see them winning the tag team championships at all. But that is not really the biggest thing to take away from this. He then continues. Kevin Owens and Sami are defending and losing the tag team titles to the Usos. And by the way, here's a guarantee for them. They will lose those tag team championships because the tribal chief, and this is the interesting note, the Usos didn't see this, but as soon as he says this, Paul Heyman turns. He's right behind Jey Uso. He literally looks at the Usos. The tribal chief is losing patience with the two of them. The seeds are getting planted, ladies and gentlemen. The seeds are getting planted. That is exactly what I've been saying for the past couple of weeks. What did I say? There is a bigger story to be told with Jey Uso. I don't really necessarily think it's with Jimmy. I genuinely believe it's with just Jey, because Jey is the catalyst to the entirety of the Bloodline. Jey Uso was literally Roman Reigns' first feud as the tribal chief. He was the first feud as the tribal chief. The first feud was with Jey Uso. And now it looks like Jey Uso is going to be in Sami Zayn's position, and he's going to be the one that gets whacked. Yes, I'm giving some, some mob ties right here. Sopranos. Ever watch The Sopranos and you see all these whacks happening? Yeah, some shit's going to happen like that with Jey Uso. Shit's going to happen, man. I'm excited. As soon as Paul Heyman did that, you already knew the seed was getting planted. And shit is about to get real. But that's all I wanted to talk about that, man. Jey Uso, his days in the Bloodline are going to get numbered. So after that, we got the match between Solo Sikoa and Matt Riddle starting. Solo's in control over Matt Riddle. We get a sleeper hold by Riddle, but then he applies the sleeper once again. Solo then drops Riddle down. Once we're back from break, both men fight it out, but then Solo takes out Riddle. We then get a cover by Solo and a near fall, but then Riddle and Solo exchange shots. Then we get a slap by Solo, knocking Riddle down. Solo then runs into the corner, but then we get a couple of rights and lefts by Riddle. We then get a kick to the face of Solo, but then Riddle goes for an elbow into the corner. We then get repeated elbows by Solo. After that, we get a suplex by Riddle, but then Riddle misses a kick and a moonsault. After that, Riddle goes for the Broton, but then Solo gets the knees up after that. Riddle then goes to the top, but then after that, he goes for the floating bro. And then Jimmy and Jey come out after getting kicked out earlier in the match. But then what happens is Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn come in. All four men fight it out, but then Riddle lands on his feet. Riddle goes for a kick, but then Riddle is on the apron. And then he goes for the floating bro, taking out the Usos on the outside. After that, he goes to the top, but then he lands into a kick by Solo Sikoa. And then he gets hit with the Samoan spike. After that, after the match, Solo hits the Uranagi on Riddle through the announce table. And then Solo buries Riddle on the announce table. And after that, Solo is literally in the ring. Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn try to help Riddle, but then Solo and the Usos stand tall. And the Bloodline, as Jimmy stated earlier in the night, is stronger than ever. Overall thoughts on this match. Pretty decent match between Matt Riddle and Solo Sikoa. Again, I talked about this earlier in the review. WWE is literally booking Solo Sikoa as a legitimate killer. And I absolutely love the way that they're booking Solo Sikoa. Everything that they... Every bit, every detail, every bit that they're booking Solo Sikoa is just absolutely pure perfection. I'm becoming a real big fan of Solo Sikoa now. And I mean, I've always was a fan of Solo Sikoa, but like now, like more than ever, because like he's now in a more prominent position than when he was when he first joined the Bloodline. But man, this whole Jey Uso stuff, man, it's getting a little interesting. Getting a little bit interesting, man. Are his days? A lot of people say it's going to be both the Usos, but I genuinely do not believe Jimmy is going to get executed. I think it's going to be only Jey. It's very interesting to see what they do, man. They're definitely going to whack Jey in some way, shape, or form. When that is going to be, I have absolutely no idea. but I feel like they're definitely going to be doing that slow build, kind of similar to what they did with Sami Zayn. But I may be totally wrong. But yeah, those are my thoughts on that. But things are getting a little bit interesting when it comes to the realm of the Bloodline. And as we head into 2 weeks regarding the Usos versus Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens in the rematch of Night 1 at WrestleMania on SmackDown in 2 weeks. But yeah, that was my SmackDown review from April 14th, 2023. Overall thoughts on this show. This was not the best. It was a pretty decent show, but not really the best show. It was kind of your generic SmackDown, really. Really, the only important thing that you can really take away from the show was all the stuff regarding Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, Solo Sikoa, and the Bloodline, and everything else. Everything else on the show was just not really up to par, I would say. Nothing was really special. Really, the Bloodline stuff is really the only thing that matters at this point when it comes to SmackDown. And you know what? That is fine. But overall, it was a decent show. Was it the best show? No, but it wasn't a bad show either. So it was a pretty decent show, to say the least. But yeah, that was my SmackDown review from April 14th, 2023. Please like, subscribe, comment down below, push that bell for notifications, and be on the lookout for more videos right here on the WrestleHavoc Podcast, right here on YouTube, in which we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content. And as the freaking referee would say, ring, ring, ring that damn bell for more notifications. And as always, it is Flamin' Ricky DeRays, signing out. Peace.